Hey CDA, and welcome back to Astro Colony, and today we are going to do exactly that. We are going to make our colony into an actual colony, because even though it looks like it's alive with all these spiders crawling around, it's not, because we don't actually have any colonists, not counting ourselves. Now, in order to do that, we are going to need the sand that we have in production over here on our first planetoid. We have a pretty decent stockpile of that already, and there's also a couple of other things I actually want to unlock. So let's take a look at the technology screen. We are, of course, going to need to make hydrotonics in order to feed our colonists, which they are going to do from a dining stand, whether it's where they consume food, or a canteen. And we're also going to need to make sure we can actually call them, so that's why we need the human migration, and we also thereby get access to the hibernation chamber, where they can actually go and sleep. So we're going to unlock those two things straight away. I'm also going to unlock vertical construction, because that will allow us to make our base look a little bit more interesting than it currently does. And there's also going to be a couple of other things like colonist training and advanced mining, of course, that we will get access to as soon as we can get some colonists to actually work in our laboratories. So let's unlock that as well, and let's start designing a little bit of space to actually receive our colonists. But first things first, our astronauts are not going to stay alive for very long if they have nothing to eat. And in order to make sure they have something to eat, we are going to need to make hydrotonics in our hydro generator. Now, as you can see, I am still producing non-stop hydrogen, which I can probably turn off for the moment and start making hydrotonics instead. Now, hydrotonics are going to be made from quartz, which we don't currently have, and that means we are going to need to produce some quartz first. Now, feeding your colonists initially is kind of a little bit annoying, because you need the tonics in order to feed them, and the only reason to make tonics is from the quartz, but the quartz is actually, well, depending a little bit on your starting position, hard to find. For example, right now I only have this kind of barren asteroid, and there's only two ways to get quartz reliably, at least on this type of asteroid. So you can get it from the rocks. As you can see, you just hack away at the rocks, you get a tiny bit of quartz from that, and from plants as well. Now, this type of asteroid doesn't really have a lot of plants, so as you can see, I have this little tiny plant over here, which again is going to give me a tiny bit of quartz. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're going to have to find a better way of feeding our colonists in the long run, but for now, let's see, we have a total of 22 quartz, and there's plenty of more of that on this this rock as well. And as you can see, we have a lot of these rocks over here, so we should be able to feed our colonists just fine for now if we just manually feed this in. So let's put that in like that, and we should start creating some hydrotonics. We're also going to need somewhere for our colonists to eat and sleep. And considering we have most of our production going on this side, I think we might as well make a kind of living quarters on this side. So I'm gonna go and extend this platform quite a bit, and maybe even make a raised platform, to be honest, in order to make a nice little living area that is not kind of attached to everything else that we have going on the ground floor. We don't want our colonists to get scared by robotic spiders, after all. Now, it's not like we're going to have dozens of colonists early on, so we don't need that much space, I think. But I definitely want them to live on a different level than basically the rest of the factory, just to make it a little bit more posh. I also definitely want my colonists to be able to breathe. I'm not entirely sure if we actually need that, but well, might as well just place a couple of those oxygen pillars on both sides, just so we have a nice little set of domes going on. You probably can get away with just one for now, but hey, it looks pretty, so why not? I also used a different type of flooring, and we have some glass flooring going on over here as well. The main reason for that is that I really hate it when you go into a facility and get all like built-in claustrophobic, etc. Why not just make them able to look out to space through the roof as well as the sides? We can actually get some walls going as well, but I don't want to do that until I'm at least reasonably sure that I'm not going to expand much further on the sides, and for now I definitely think that is the case, so let's just stick with the lack of walls that we currently have. Now, in order for our colonists to get here, we're going to need another docking station, and we're going to need some stairs in order for them to actually be able to move up and down. There we go. I think something like this should do the trick. Now, I'm actually really interested to see how good the pathfinding on the astronauts is now. But they should be able to arrive here. They can get up to the platform on both of these sides. And just in case, I also put down a ladder on the back side, which should also allow the bots to get up here if we want the bots to supply the food to the astronauts, which sounds cool, being served by robots. So in order to actually do that, we are going to have to place down somewhere for the astronauts to sleep and eat. So that's going to be our next step. Yikes! We have spiders crawling up and down the ladder, so that's working like intended. So I've set up a couple of things. We have 2 hibernation chambers, so I'm aiming for 2 colonists to begin with. Let's see if we can get a couple of them to survive. We have the canteen, which apparently automatically the bots supply with hydrotonics, which is really, really cool. I didn't actually have to set it. As you can see, the spiders are crawling up. Oh man, if you have arachnophobia, this is not the game for you. And I actually don't think you can do this with belts either. You do have to do this with robots, or manually maybe, I don't know. You can probably put it in manual if you want to, but that's definitely not what you should be doing in a game that's all about automation. Anyway, hibernation chamber, canteen, this is where they get the food. In order to actually eat the food, they're going to go to a dining stand, so they're actually going to eat it at a table. We should probably double up on that as well. Well, not entirely sure if we need 2 of them, but anyway. We also have a studying point, so this is where we can actually have our astronauts train. And then there's actually one thing that I didn't build yet. So let's see, a school. This is a pretty large building, so I think we're gonna put that at the bottom floor. Why? Well, just because it kind of looks cool though. It's kind of a library thing which it has going on. And there we can see what we want people to specialize. So for example, we can specialize them into scientists. That's the first thing we're going to need because we don't have any use for cooks or engineers just yet. But in order to make those scientists, well, we're going to need the scientists in order to build the laboratory and get our science going. So, yeah. That's all there is to it. Now, in order to make sure we actually get some astronauts, we are going to have to bribe them. So we can call them over here, and just spending some gold will call them to our docking station. Now, it will take a little while for them to arrive, as you can see in the top right corner. It takes 70 seconds for the next shuttle to arrive. It's basically on a loop, so it's not 70 seconds all the time. It's just 70 seconds to the next one. And once it gets here, we should have our first colonists. And we should have our shuttle arriving at any moment now. There we go. I like the pinpoint accuracy of actually driving by and connecting straight away with this, this thing already out. So yeah, our first astronaut. Let's see, let's zoom in a little bit. Can we look at you? I actually really like how these guys are animated. They look really good. We have one man over here, and what are you? You are also a man. Sometimes the astronauts do not look identical, so you can get male, female, etc. Different skin colors, etc. So I really like the diversity in terms of the astronauts. I think that's really well done. The animations are sometimes a little bit wonky, but generally speaking, for a game made by one single developer, I think it's really good. So this works as follows. We have the astronaut training to be a scientist first. We can actually queue up a second one as well, so you can also start training. It should work just fine. You cannot actually use the second half of the library apparently, but yeah, he will be training, and as soon as this one is done with his basic training, he should move upstairs because we have the study point over there, and you can see some wonky animations going on over here when they use a ladder. He apparently also loses his head in the process, but he will be using that study point in order to complete its full training. So as you can see, he's now training to be an actual specialist, and once this is done, he should be moving towards the laboratory and start working on science. That's of course assuming that we actually queue the science up. We are going to need some dirt for that, we're going to need some iron rods for that, and our robots should be making sure that we get that, and then we have a third type of science unlocked. And there we go, we are now producing chemistry science, which will allow us to progress much further into the game and get access to some more sophisticated types of materials, as well as, of course, in the end, ways to actually farm and stuff like that, because now these guys are actually living on tonics, which is not going to last for very long. Now, as a sneak preview, what you're going to need to do in order to automate your food production is unlock agriculture. So that will allow us to build a farm and make some of our colonists be farmers. It will also make us able to put down some farm land and basically grow food. Now, in order to get there, we're going to need a different type of research altogether. So biology, science. In order to get that, we're going to need to unlock a couple of other things. And specifically, we are going to need access to some more advanced materials like titanium and aluminium and glass. Now, all of that is actually not going to be as much work as it sounds, even though it's a lot of different types of things, because we already have titanium on this area here, and we should have access to some more planetoids in the region. This one has aluminium on it. Yeah, so basically with these two asteroids we are already pretty much done. And the nice thing is we can actually move our entire base to a second asteroid and just keep building. You don't have to extend the starting colony that you started out with. You can simply build, for example, on the other side of this planetoid and continue building there. There is one thing to keep in mind, and that is that the game treats each base as a separate entity. So for example, your robots will not be moving from one base to another. So you have different types of resources and different types of places. That is something to take into account, and you might have to replicate certain parts of your build in a different area. But yeah, so far so good. So we have actual colonists in our Astro Colony now. Let me see, where are they? Are they asleep? No, they are still working, I think. Yep, so that's good. They at some point will come up to eat. They will get some of these hydrotonics and bring them at the table, and at some point they will also get to sleep. Now, I can't actually show it to you right now because they're in this building. At least I don't think I can. Let's see. Can I click on you while you're in there? You can actually see them in there, which is, I think, is really, really cool. You can actually see them at work. But if you click on a colonist while it's walking around outside, you can actually check how hungry, tired, etc. they are. So that is it for this episode. Make sure you join me in the next one where we're going to be massively expanding our technology. And I hope you enjoyed this one. Make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't, and I will catch you in the next one.